Welcome back to our series where we are revisiting the invention of photography and the stories of the people who help make things happen. As this is part 10 of the series, if you missed the first episode, you may want to pause this video and start from part 1. In this episode, we search high and low for some images. Between 1858 and 59, there were a few more noteworthy developments that happened just prior to the beginning of the American Civil War of 1861 to 65. A French newspaper caricaturist turned photographer, Gaspard Felix Tournichon, was simply known as Nadar, a nickname given to him by some friends. The best way to describe Nadar was to say that he was the Annie Leibovitz or Richard Avedon of his time, as he photographed a who's who of French society, be they politicians, artists, musicians, painters, or writers. In 1858, 45 years before the Wright brothers' first flight, Nadar went up in a hot air balloon with camera, darkroom, chemicals and all, and made the first aerial photograph. Gas escaping from the balloon created image problems, namely the swaying or vibrational movement of the balloon because of the relatively long exposures. Movement would cause blur in the image. He invented and draped a gas-proof cotton cover over his balloon baskets, and as a result, he was able to make some acceptable still images. Pioneering the use of artificial light, Nadar also is credited with being the first person to photograph underground in the catacombs of Paris. Born in Halifax, Yorkshire, England in 1806, John Waterhouse was a renowned astronomer and meteorologist who had an interest in photography. Lenses of the day pretty much had fixed apertures, or holes that allow light to pass through a lens and onto the film. Named after himself, a series of Waterhouse stops were small, removable metal plates with various sized holes in them that could be inserted into the slot of a lens barrel, allowing photographers for the first time to choose different apertures. The Waterhouse stop became a practical way to adjust how much light could pass through the lens, and it was quickly adopted. This both improved how photography was practiced and advanced lens development. These stops would also be used in darkroom enlargers. We mentioned André a little while back. In 1859, he went public with his carte de visite, and to say it was an overnight success would be understating what happened. People took to this immediately, and the novelty of it spread like a wildfire. Desjardins would routinely take in 3,000 to 4,000 francs a day making portraits of people, which translates into between 20 and 28,000 US dollars per day. For a 5-day work week, that works out to be US $7.3 million per year. Coupled with the fact that Desjardins was a brilliant showman, he quickly made his process famous throughout the world. Flooding the market with inexpensive prints quickly brought about the demise of the daguerreotype. Photographers once again had to pivot in order to survive. Among Desjardins' other accomplishments of note, he invented the twin-lens reflex camera, a device that became very popular in the mid-1900s. If Sigmund Freud was born 35 years earlier, I have no doubt that he would have found French poet, writer, translator, and art critic Charles Baudelaire to be an interesting client. When he was 6 years old, his father, who was 34 years older than his mother, passed away. The following year, his mother remarried, and this apparently traumatized Charles as he was no longer the center of attention in his mother's life. As a poet and writer, he was considered to be the first modernist. On the screen here is something Baudelaire wrote as an art critic in 1859. As the photographic industry became a refuge of all failed painters with too little talent or too lazy to complete their studies, this universal craze not only assumed the air of blind and imbecile infatuation, but took on the aspect of revenge. Can it legitimately be supposed that a people whose eyes get used to accepting the results of a material science as products of the beautiful will not, within a given time have singularly diminished its capacity for judging and feeling those things that are most ethereal and immaterial? Ouch! Tell us how you really felt, Charles. English photographer, inventor, author, and editor Thomas Sutton was a business partner of Louis Daguerre Blanchard Everard. He was the editor of journal publication that he and Blanchard Everard established called Photographic Notes. He also authored a number of photography books, including the Dictionary of Photography in 1858. A year later, he developed the first panoramic camera that used a wide-angle lens. The camera projected onto a 120-degree curved plate and used a lens that was a glass sphere filled with water. He continued to tinker with camera designs, and in 1861, Sutton invented and patented the first single-lens reflex camera. The camera used a mirror and prism to allow the photographer to see the scene that they were looking at in a way that it would be recorded on the plate before making the image. The mirror flips out of the way just before the shutter opens. Other cameras of the day projected an upside-down and backwards image onto a ground glass screen. Please join us the next time when we get some major advances, add a bit of secret sauce, get a swan song, as well as a flash in the pan and more. We look forward to you being with us.